social networking site. And according to Dr. Michael Strangelove in his text, Watching YouTube, it is a form for individuals to create content and display them for the masses to see through uploading into the World Wide Web. Now, today we're gonna be looking at how YouTube also provides the means for women to be objectified, how commercials and videos and pictures demean female athletes of their skills. Advertising presents women almost exclusively in one of two roles: housewife or sex object. YouTube is notorious in depicting videos of women athletes wearing bikinis with high heels, demonstrating sexual poses. As the camera captures the athlete, the focus is usually on specific body parts, such as the chest area, clearly overlooking the great strength and skill that female athlete possesses. It is imperative for all female athletes to show sex appeal, mainly because sponsors and media decision makers expect them to do it. Now on television. Television viewers often rely on information presented by journalists to stay current on a range of issues. However, this information becomes problematic when the bias of news agencies is not recognized, and there are many biases. Whenever sports news is presented, reporters tend to focus mainly on male athletes, which is no surprise since that is where a lot of the money is made for these huge advertising companies. Now, women athletes are consistently underrepresented with a limited amount of coverage. And the few times that women athletes are presented in the television medium, they are usually portrayed without their sports gear or uniform, which is actually what they wear during their games, rather in a hyper feminized role. For example, there are fewer women than men advertising expensive luxury products. Now, this is not to say that there aren't any female athletes who are advertising expensive luxury, but this I am saying from studies that female athletes that advertise expensive luxury products are usually portrayed wearing a bikini or some sort of sexual form compared to a male athlete such as Kobe Bryant or a famous soccer player called Beckham, which usually is shown as very strong and almost like a superhero. Point number two: few women shown actively engaged in sports. Whenever we watch sports television, we see a very few women that are actually representing the sports that they play in. The few that actually do represent their sports are in the same token as the ads, luxury car ads, they usually portrayed in some sort of sexy form. Point number three: advertising companies are very critical of feminist rights and issues. In the short form, is just that they do not care. Advertising companies are multi-billion-dollar industries, and they really do not care about female rights and equal rights and issues.
Advertising agencies often select male athletes for their campaigns than their female counterparts. Few female athletes are actually shown on television playing the sport they practice. Sport advertising firms are very critical of female athletes and do not care about equal advertising rights. According to a number of sports media researchers, the campaign, like so many others in female sports, undermines its players' achievements by sexualizing them inadvertently or otherwise. A recent study found that major television networks in the U.S. devote just 1.6% of airtime to women's sports, down from 6.3% in 2004, and across TV and print media, female athletes make up at most 8% of overall sports coverage. When female athletes are featured in ads, it tends to be in ways that are hyper-feminized rather than highlight their athletic competence.
Today, the role of women in sports media has increased dramatically, but the issue of equality still remains. In the past decade, there have been numerous incidents of indecent behavior towards women in sports media. As equal as society thinks it is, how progressive are we?
Sport is not just a trivial activity for fun. It has real, deep cultural meaning in this society. And I think that to challenge that meaning in terms of what it means to be a man in this culture by inviting women in and acknowledging that women are also athletic and muscular and strong is a real challenge to that cultural norm that we live in.
I am Cappy Pondexter.
Diana Taurasi.
Sherry Nelson.
I'm Peekaboo Street.
And I got something to say.
Female athletes have to overcome the bias that their game isn't as good as the men's game.
Are boys bigger, stronger, faster? Yes. Is that all that has to do with being an athlete? No.
The halfpipe doesn't care that I'm a girl.
I want to pitch for the Boston Red Sox.
And when I look in the mirror, I see an athlete.
I am a runner.
A snowboarder.
Ball player.
Triathlete.
Softball player.
I am an athlete. And I'm proud of that athlete.
It's not a girl thing. It's not a boy thing. It's a skills thing.
I think it's pretty clear that if you're a female athlete and you want corporate sponsorship, you'd better project a wholesome image.
Best to think about women as weak, as supportive for men, purely as sexual objects.
Who's controlling the images that we see in the media? And I think particularly if you look at sports media, by and large, the decisions about what images are portrayed, what images are used, who gets coverage are still made by men.
And moving, trying to get to you and that booty, trying to get to you and that booty.